Hi everyone, my name is Ben Dearman. As you can see, I'm unfortunately not there physically, but I'm there in spirit. We had some things come up that threw a monkey wrench in me being there. I'm going to talk about that and how it kind of all pans into leadership. So I want to thank BloomU University for having me come back or offering me the chance to talk to everybody. It's pretty crazy when I think that, I graduated in 2004, so I had committed to doing this, and one thing about leadership that a leader needs to understand is that a leader has to have radical acceptance, and a leader needs to be able to roll with the punches, and a leader needs to be able to make decisions that are logical and are good, basically. So I accepted the, I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to be there. I'd love to talk, and that was before I got the news. And I'm at my second home right now, so you're going to hear phones ringing, and you're going to hear possibly some people talking in the background. So hopefully this comes out okay. And hopefully I'm going to do, over the next about 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to do a good job of explaining to you what makes a good leader and how I've developed my leadership abilities over the last roughly 20 years. The lessons that you're going to learn today. Lesson number 1. A leader needs a team that they can lead that's going to take over if shit hits the fan, right? So what does that mean? I'm going to come out here. Need a little more space. So as I told you guys, so I've diagnosed with cancer. Came as a big shock, as you can imagine. I'm a health professional. I live very healthy. I work out. I eat very well. I take care of myself. Right. That's part of the gig of being a health professional. So how on earth could I develop cancer? Well, unfortunately, cancer doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. Cancer just says, you know what? I'm going to come to you now. So in our business, a main way that we drive sales is that we have short-term membership options, okay? And one of our biggest short-term membership options is a contest. We call it a New Year, New You, and it's right around the new year. And this contest, so what happens is we bring in revenue immediately from the contest, but then the idea is that we bring in, obviously, residual revenue, right? So with this contest, the amount of revenue that we bring in can be anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000. For a small business, 10 to 20 grand in a month to 2 months extra on top of your bottom line, that's pretty good. And so this whole thing happened, the whole cancer thing happened, as we were starting to gear up for this, arguably the biggest competition that we do, the biggest membership drive that we do this year is really based off this New Year, New You. A week before the contest was going to start is when I found out. Officially all the results came back, and this was after I had a biopsy done. It's freaking cold in New Hampshire, right? And we're in this gigantic space, and because it's a gym, right? People aren't coming here to hang out in a 70-degree room. They're coming here to work. They're coming here to sweat. So we don't keep the heat on in here. It stays about 60 degrees during the winter. That's not too bad if you're working out, but if you just had somewhat major surgery and you have a bunch of areas on your body that don't feel very good, then being in a 60-degree room really doesn't feel good. So I wasn't around for that week, and I had no idea what happened with the contest. As far as I knew, when I kind of checked out, we were at 10 teams, and we needed to get 20 teams. So we needed to bring in 10 non-members as well as 40 members, right? So came back and talked to my team. On the team that we have at the gym, we have about 8 people, I think. Jamie, Gina, Christine, Lara, Tori, Lisa, Dika, Linda. Yep, 8. So I came back in for a staff meeting to tell the staff, hey, what's going on? And they caught me by surprise because they said, hey, listen, we made our 20 teams. And I was stunned. I said, how could you make the 20 teams? I wasn't involved in this process. How could you go from 10 teams to 20 teams without me doing anything. I didn't help at all. It blew me away. When they told me that, I almost cried a little bit. I got a little choked up. And they said we hustled. And they said, I teamed up with Tori and we got this person, and then Tori and Christine teamed up and they got these 2 teams together, and they explained to me how they all worked as a team in order to get those 20 teams that we needed to get. That was our quota. So lesson number 1, a leader is nothing without a team, because if shit hits the fan like it did with me, a leader needs to be able to step away and be able to say, okay, I trust in my team, that my team is going to do what needs to be done in order to accomplish that goal that we set out. I know. All right, lesson number 2. A good leader leaves leadership residue. All right, what does that mean? That means that a good leader allows people to walk in their footprints, right? So had this big contest I just talked about, huge contest that basically has the potential to make us about $100,000 by the time you do all the math and everything, right? That's pretty big for small business. That this $100,000 depends on these roughly 12 weeks in your calendar year. So one of the reasons why we're able to get those extra teams and why my team kicks so much ass at doing it is because I was constantly allowing my team to do the jobs that I was doing. Right? So I do sales and I do nutrition and I'm on the floor and I do all of these different things. I wear all these different hats. But my goal has always been to step away from the business and allow the business to function without me. That was a goal. Having cancer is not really how I wanted to accomplish that goal, but hey, whatever. Radical acceptance. So the team was very good at stepping up and being able to sign people up for the membership that they want to do, so paperwork, talking people out of the basic objections that we get, right? Well, geez, I don't know if I can do it at this time, or I don't know if I can afford it, or X, Y, and Z, right? So because we had already drilled all of these things, and I'd already allowed them to kind of experiment on different people doing those different things, they were able to really kind of step in and take over. And they were able to do that because of the leadership residue, because I allowed them to do the things that I was doing so that they could learn how to do it in case I wasn't around, or ideally so that they could do it better than me, right? By the way, my very good friend is behind the camera. His name is Chris. He has a bunch of funky ideas as far as how he wants to shoot these different segments, which is why I'm towering over top of you right now. And you may or may not hear his voice as he might say, hey, talk about this real quick. So if you hear a disembodied voice come in over the camera, it's just my buddy Chris.
Genius at work.
So the lesson that I learned from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts is that a leader leads by kicking ass, okay? Both actually kicking ass and figuratively kicking ass. So 3, you have to be good at what you're leading somebody in. If you are not the best of the best, if for me fitness and specifically weight loss, if I say to myself honestly, if I ask myself the question, are there better people in the state of New Hampshire? Is there anybody in the state of New Hampshire who I think is better at helping somebody lose weight? And there's nobody. There's nobody that's better in New Hampshire than me at helping somebody lose weight. That might sound arrogant and that might sound conceited, but after doing this for 15 years and talking to a bunch of people and helping thousands of people accomplish their goals, I have the confidence that I can say that statement. I kick ass at helping people lose weight. So as a leader, you need to make sure that you are the cream of the crop, that you are the best person to lead that particular job or that particular group or whatever it may be. But you need to make sure that you kick ass in that. And so this lesson is really about sometimes you have to be an asshole in order to accomplish what you need to accomplish, okay? So if you're serving dinner in restaurant business, if you're serving dinner between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m., the amount of money that the restaurant makes is solely based on how many tables you can turn in that time. And the amount of tables that you turn in that time is almost solely based on how fast you can get a meal out. So if you're a head chef, generally in a kitchen, there's a head chef and there's a sous chef. The head chef is responsible for making sure everything is run smoothly, and the sous chef is basically helps the head chef do that. So when you're in the restaurant business and you have line cooks, and you might have 4 or 5 cooks, and there might be a fry cook, and there might be a sauté cook, and there might be a dessert chef, or whatever the case may be, but there's still that head chef overseeing everything. And then you have all of these wait staff, right, that are all demanding these dishes right away, so that these wait staff can get these plates out to this table, and then they can get that table out of here so that the wait staff makes more money. They turn that table faster, and the restaurant makes more money. And you have this head chef who is standing right next to you, screaming at you to hurry up and plate that dish, or to hurry up and cook that food, or you're taking too long. It shouldn't take you 3 minutes to do a medium rare tenderloin. It should only take you 2.5 minutes. And let me show you how it's done. They push you out of the way, right? So kitchens are very, very chaotic, and it's a lot of fun, but you often get yelled at, and you often get called names, and you often get your feelings hurt, unfortunately. But that's the nature of the business. Again, you only have this set period of time to do these jobs. So sometimes you have to be an asshole. Sometimes a leader has to be that person that other people might not like, because they need to be that person in order to get that job done. And from the restaurant business, that was probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned, was that when a job had to get done, then you might have to be not a nice guy, right? You might have to be a jerk. But after that job is done, hey, high five guys, high fives, let's go out and get a drink. You guys did fantastic. I'm sorry that I called you a worthless human being. I didn't mean it. I was angry at the time, but let's go out and we're going to put all that stuff aside. So this lesson is basically, sometimes leader has to be an asshole, but if you do, you need to make sure that you smooth over any feelings that you hurt, and that you make sure that the team or the person or whoever that you are not a nice person to, they understand that it's not personal. It just has to do with getting the job done. So lesson number 5 is a leader commands attention. And when a leader enters a room, people understand that that person is a leader. Coach, as a collegiate strength coach, you're dealing with these athletes who arguably don't necessarily want to be there. Okay, they would rather be partying, they would rather be sleeping, they would rather be playing their sport than potentially coming in and to do a back squat workout or to do a leg workout. Okay, so you had to light a fire under these athletes' asses in order to get them motivated to do that workout. And if they came in and they were like, all right, coach, what's the workout of the day? And you have your arms crossed in front of you and your feet are together, and you talk in a very soft voice and you say, well guys, the workout of the day is, we're going to do 2 sets of 10 on the bench press, and they're gone. They already lost, right? Or you already lost them. So in order to command presence and in order to command attention, you have to do some things that subconsciously some of you might already do, but consciously you have to do more of. So if you're not very commanding, take up a lot of space. Take your legs apart, right? Put your hands on your hips, cross your arms, okay? Do those things. They're called power poses. There's a great TEDx talk. If you Google power poses, TEDx, it'll get into it. But basically, as a leader, you need to command people's attention. When you talk as a leader, I love it, my cameraman's like doing all these crazy angles. When you talk as a leader, people need to listen to you, right? It doesn't do you any good if you're talking and nobody's listening to you and you're trying to lead these people, and yet they don't remember what you said because you're doing something like this, okay? So if you're in that leadership position and you are talking to people, take those feet wide. Wider the better. Take up space. Hands on hips. Arms crossed, right? You can use the arm gestures to try and attract more attention. But generally, if you can take up a bigger space, then you will have more of a presence. You will command more attention to be given to you. 6. This lesson I learned from the Rangers. So lesson number 6 is a leader delegates. Okay, a leader basically tells people what to do, right? And part of this goes back to the martial arts lesson. The reason why I got the job with the Rangers, I wasn't, I didn't meet any of the qualifications. Okay, so they basically posted, again, I was a subcontractor, so the company that held the contract for that position, they posted something online. I said, man, that'd be kind of badass to go and like do some stuff with the Rangers. And so I looked at all the requirements. I said, I don't meet any of these requirements, okay? But what I did have is I had a bachelor's in exercise science from BloomU University. Go Huskies!
Go Huskies!
And I also had, at the time, I had about 5 years, roughly, experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts, which was the same combative system, essentially, that they were using in the Army and are still using up to this point right now. It's called the Modern Army Combatives Program. And so I didn't meet any of, none of the requirements of the job I met, but I still put my resume in. And at the time I was at Bucknell, and I was like, you know what, if I get it, great. If I don't get it, whatever. I got a call back from a guy named Jeremy, and he was basically my boss, he turned into my boss. He held the contract. And he said, hey, I want to fly you down to Florida. I want you to interview for this position. I said, are you kidding me? I said, of course, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So he flew me down. Long story short, I ended up getting the job. Military. At the time, it was very confusing to me. It's like, okay, wait a minute, you're a colonel and you're a sergeant major and you're a sergeant and lieutenant colonel. I don't know what the hell any of these ranks are. Went around, introduced me to people, and then he split. And I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, so I'm now the head strength and conditioning coach for these Rangers, and I'm supposed to be teaching them combatives. So the first thing that I did was I rolled. So in jiu-jitsu or mixed martial arts, it's called rolling. When you actually like get on the mat and you train with somebody and you're trying to choke them out or get them to submit. I rolled with every single person that I possibly could for the first month that I was there. And there wasn't a single person that beat me. I was very good. So that's how I got their respect, right? Because I basically could choke them out or I could make them submit. And when you're dealing with a Ranger, it's very important that you get that person's respect. So that's how I got the respect. And so they taught me a very important lesson, and they taught me about delegating. That happened was very interesting because it would be delegating from the standpoint of, hey guys, we need to go build this structure, or we need to go accomplish this mock mission. And so as the leader of the regiment, or as the leader of the battalion, I'm going to have each company do something a little bit different, and then they're responsible for basically getting that information down to the lowest. And as the head person, I'm not actually going to engage that much in this mission. My job is to stand back and to trust that everybody is doing the job that I delegated to them. The gym would be cleaned a couple times a week, and they would basically just send down a bunch of rippies, which are basically young privates that are going through the Ranger process. And so they would send them down, they would clean the gym, and the gym itself was in 2 buildings and it was massive. And so I was constantly moving things around and trying to figure out a good flow for the gym and trying to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And so these guys would come down, and rather than me carry 1,000 pounds of weight from one room to another room, I would have these guys do it. And I would be able to stand back and let these guys do it. I would delegate to them, right? So a leader needs to make sure that they are delegating. A leader should never be doing something that they can have somebody else do. And inevitably you come into that problem, well, nobody can do it as good as I can. Nobody can do it better than me. So I have to do every job. I have to mop the gym, or I have to hang this thing up, or I have to put this machine together, right? And if you, as a leader, if you have that mentality of nobody can do a better job than me, then you are going to be your biggest limiting factor, right? Because how good a job gets done, a lot of times is irrelevant. What matters is, did the job get done, right? So as a ranger, if their job was to go in and their job was to get these people out of this building in a hostage situation, or their job was to go and eliminate a target at this particular location, right? As long as the mission was accomplished, then that's what they were happy about. Now, if they were supposed to take out this particular target and they ended up taking out the entire building, did the target get taken out? Yep, target got taken out. Oh, by the way, there's now a gigantic crater the size of a building. Oh, that sucks. But got the target? Okay, you know what? Job's done. Could it have been done better? Sure, it could have been done better. But the job got done, right? So a leader delegates jobs that they themselves could do, but very easily for somebody else to do. And that allows the leader to focus on very high yield things that are really going to allow the growth of whatever it is that the leader, the business or in the military, the squad or the team or whatever the case may be. So the lesson I learned from the SEALs is everyone can be a leader, but one person needs to call the shots. So with the Rangers, it was very clear who was in charge, who was in command, right? And you could really just look at the age of somebody. Like, man, you look like you're 18 years old. Okay, you are not a sergeant, right? Or, gosh, you look like you're 42 years old, or you look like you're in your 40s. You know what? You could potentially be a major. You are not a private, okay? So with the SEALs, it was very different. The SEALs are generally older. They're a lot more mature. They're going to be in their mid to late 20s, and then they could be active up until their 30s or 40s. Age still has a pretty big thing to do as far as the military is concerned, just based on, hey, if you've been in the military for 10 years versus 5 years, you're most likely going to be a higher rank at 10 years than you would be at 5 years. So with the SEALs, it was really interesting to watch the SEALs because you never knew who was the highest ranking SEAL. You never knew who was like, okay, well, which person is this rank and which person is that rank and who calls the shots here, right? So it was a totally different dynamic to see. The take-home point was that everybody was a leader. Everybody had a say in what was going to happen. Right? Okay, guys. Here's our job. We need to go and do this. Okay, we need to take out this group of people. And here's the mission. And then they might say, yeah, but listen, hey, cool. What if we do this? Or what if we? Hey, here's something that I observed. Right? And so they had the chance to give their input. With the Rangers, it didn't happen. If you were a sergeant, and you were explaining this mission to a bunch of privates. As a private, you were not allowed to. You could say, "Hey, Sarge, maybe we shouldn't do this," and at that point, you would get your ass kicked by the sergeant, right? So this lesson is really about you can have a lot of leaders, but you have to have one person that gets the final say. You have to have one person that calls the shot. You have to have one person that says, "Okay, this is what we're going to do." Based on all of these great things that you told me. All this great information that you've given me, I'm going to use that information. And I'm going to make the decision that's the best thing for the group, for the team. So I call the shots. We're all leaders, but I call the shots. Right? So that was the big lesson from the SEALs: is that you can have multiple leaders, but you still have to have one person that calls the shots. In the military, and basically in the military. You're never at a rank for a long period of time. Like you're never a sergeant for a long period of time unless you can't progress past that point. But you're always progressing in the military. You're always moving to a different position. Okay, and because of that, because the military is this gigantic machine, and everything has to run smoothly as you exit out of that position, you're always looking for somebody to take over your position as a leader, and you're always looking for somebody that you can move up in the ranks. Right? So you're basically looking for somebody that you can trust, and you're looking for somebody who can replace you. Right? So those are the two. So as a leader, you have to have those two things. You have to have somebody that you can trust 100%. Okay? And you have to have somebody who you are grooming, who you are trying to move that person up the ranks in order for you to be able to step away and have that person then take the leadership position. So these are two of our awesome team members. Jamie, she's the person I trust, 100%. And Laura, I trust Laura 10% because she's kind of shady. No, I'm just kidding.
Totally shady.
So Laura's the person that we're kind of grooming to try and take over a top leadership position. I trust Jamie 100% because she's my girlfriend. And so you should be able to trust, you should be able to trust the person you love. So you need to make sure that, right, the whole cancer thing happened to me. Well, if I didn't have Jamie and if I didn't have Laura, then I would be screwed because I would either have to shut down the gym or I would have to be in the gym while I'm getting chemo treatments and while I'm doing all of these surgeries, and I would have to constantly be on my phone and calling people and sending emails, and I don't have to do that now. I don't even have to check my email account for a week, and I know that these guys are going to do such a great job at continuing to grow the gym that I'm not needed, right? And it's because I have this person that I can trust 100%. And it's because I have this other person that is incredibly competent to be able to move up into a leadership position. A leader absolutely has to have somebody that they can trust 100%, so that if something were to happen and that leader has to step away, or for whatever reason that leader can't handle this big thing that comes up, they can have this person that they trust 100% to handle it. And also, a leader always has to be looking to the future. A leader always has to be saying to himself, what's the best role for me to be in? Is the best position for me to be in? In our current business, I did wear a lot of hats. And so I would make sales. So I would sit down with somebody and I would make a sale. And I would say, okay, well, is that the best position for me to be in? No, if I can get somebody else to be in that position, then I can move on to something else, right? So a leader has to have somebody they trust 100%, and the leader has to have somebody that they're grooming in order to take over the leadership position so that they can move on to something else. Okay, so lesson number 8. This is a lesson that I learned in personal training, and from, we call it fitness coaching, we call it coaching. Always needs to be able to keep their shit together. A coach is always in control, okay? And you guys can all think of that one coach that, it's the championship game, and you have the one coach that's very confident and very quiet, and they're down by 10 points or whatever the case may be, but the coach has his shit together. And you have the other coach who's crazy and who's running all over the place and screaming and everything like that, right? Those two coaches are great examples, okay? As a coach, you have to always be in control of the situation. So if you're down by 10 points, or whatever the score is, and you're freaking out, and you're running all over the field and yelling and screaming, that energy then gets pushed onto your athletes, and then they get agitated. And so then when they get on the field, because they're agitated, and there's a difference between pumped up and agitated, but when they get onto the field and they're agitated because you just got done screaming at them that they didn't catch that ball, or they didn't perform that drill the way that they should have done, they get on the field, they're more likely to mess up. They're more likely to screw up, okay, because they're not calm, right? They're not in control, okay? So in our field, the way that we structure our business is basically we do 4 personal training sessions at one time. We call it fitness coaching, and there's some differences there that allow us to do 4 personal training sessions at one time. But so the one coach is responsible for 4 people that are all on totally different plans, right? So this person might be doing a squat, this person might be doing a push-up, this person might be doing a pull-up, this person might be doing a kettlebell swing. And it's a coach's job to keep every one of them safe, and it's a coach's job to make sure that they're doing the exercise correctly, right? It's not as simple as it might sound. If it does sound simple, it's not, because you have these people that, oh, well, how many sets am I doing on this exercise? Well, what comes after this exercise? How many reps am I doing? From the time that session starts to the time it ends, your attention is divided between these 4 people. And that's not all, because you also have other people in the gym. You also have somebody at the front desk who might need hey, I got somebody waiting for you. Can you talk to him right now? No, I can't talk to him right now, right? So I tell our coaches, and I tell any people that are getting into the business of fitness, that the second, clients are like sharks. If they smell blood in the water, you're screwed. So the second that client thinks that you don't have confidence in the movement that you're demonstrating, or if they ask you a question like, hey, what's the deal with soy protein? Or why can't I have dairy? Or, you know what, I really want this chocolate cake, why can't I have it? If you don't have the confidence, and if that confidence doesn't come out, the person doesn't listen to you, right? And so when you're on the floor, for our business, when you're on the floor and you have 4 people, or sometimes even 6 or 8 or 12 or 20 people that are all trying to pull you in different directions, and if you're running around and you're freaking out, they see that, and it will make them pull you harder. But if you keep your shit together and you're cool and relaxed and you're totally in charge of the situation, even though you're not, even though you're freaking out up here, but out here you're totally confident. Make sure you don't trip over those dumbbells, cameraman. Out here you're totally confident, right? Then that confidence is going to trickle out into the clients, and they're going to be cool. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm doing 10 reps of this. All right, great. Are you sure I'm doing 10 reps? Yep, you're sure. Hey, I want to eat this cake. I want to eat this piece of cake. Why can't I do it? Oh, all right, that's a pretty good idea. I won't do it, right? So the confidence that you have has to emanate out. And you can never, ever, 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 as a leader, in my opinion, you can never let the frustration that you feel, or sometimes you gotta be an asshole, but you always have to have a cool exterior, because if your team looks at you and they're like, oh my God, like this is our leader and he's freaked out right now, man, this is really bad, okay? Then that's the confidence of the team just goes down. So no matter what, you are always in control of that situation. Fake it until you make it. All right, guys, last lesson number 9. This is a business lesson. This is one of the biggest things I learned from being my own boss, running my own business. A leader is constantly looking to improve their team. So a story about that. We have a leader should also always have somebody that they look at that is their leader, right? Or a coach that they look at to help them be a better leader. So we have business mentors. They're a gym out in California. And so, in our business, to have a career personal trainer is pretty uncommon. Most people will do personal training for a couple of years and then they peace out, because it's a commodity. Nobody has to pay a personal trainer to work out. They can pay $30 a month and they can just go and walk on a treadmill, right? They're not going to get any results, but that's a whole nother topic. Okay, so it's very common to hire a trainer or coach for us, and that coach might be around for a year and then they peace out. And so the question came up to our business mentor, and his name is Alan. And so the question was, Alan, what happens if I train this person and I teach this person everything that I know, and then they open up a gym 5 miles down the road and they take all of my clients because I've taught them everything that I know? And Alan says, okay, and he's a really good devil's advocate. He said, okay, well, think of it like this. What happens if they stay for 10 years and you don't teach them everything you know? So would I rather have somebody stick around for 10 years and I'm constantly handicapping them and I'm constantly filtering what I teach them and what they learn because I'm scared that they're going to peace out? Or would I rather have somebody that I pour everything into and I constantly teach them stuff and I constantly refine what they're doing and how they're doing it, with the fear that they might leave, right? I would rather have somebody that I am constantly refining and I'm constantly teaching and have it be the fear that they might leave, rather than have somebody for 10 years that is kind of doing an okay job. And the reason why they're not doing a better job is because of me, because I don't want to teach them all this stuff. I'm a firm believer that if you treat people well, if you treat your team well, if you treat your employees well, there's no reason for them to leave, right? Because they're going to give you everything that you need, because you're giving them everything that they need. And that means paying them well, and that means treating them well, and that means occasionally being a jerk, but explaining, hey, nothing personal, this is what I had to do. So this lesson is a leader is constantly improving their team. In your team. Once you've established the fact that, you know what, I am the best person at fixing computers in a 100-mile radius, or I am the best person at I don't know, cutting down trees, or whatever it is in a 200-mile radius. Once you become the best, there's no reason to invest in yourself to become better, right? Now, you can, let me go backwards, and there's always reason to become better, but if you're the best, then what are you, like, how are you going to be the bester? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? So if you're the best, you then need to bring other people up. You then need to make sure that that team is as good as you are, if not better. Alan says he has a good quote. He says, I'm the worst trainer in my gym. And he has a gym of like, I think he has 15 or 20 coaches. And Alan's a fantastic trainer, wrote lots of books, and he's actually the person that I co-wrote the best-selling book with. So he says, I am the worst trainer at my gym. Every single coach, every single trainer that we have at the gym is better than I am. And that, I think, as a leader, that's a true testament to a leader, is that they're able to say, you know what, I am the worst person at doing this job, but that's okay, because I've spent the time and money to have a bunch of people who can do the job better than me. And now I don't have to do that job. I can do another job. I can do something that benefits the business in a much better way. I hope it was interesting. It probably wasn't as interesting as it would have been if I was there. But unfortunately, you know, as a leader, you have to have radical acceptance, and it's just not in the cards for me to be there this Saturday. So if you guys have any questions, or if you like something you heard and you wanted to let me know, or even if you disagreed with what I said, please feel free to reach out and contact me. My email address is ben.dearman, DEARMAN, at kdrfitness.com. I'm on Twitter, Ben Dearman, and then on Facebook you can find me. Benjamin Dearman is kind of my. I don't really do a lot of personal stuff. It's mostly business, and it's mostly fitness, health related. My opinion on different things, but then I also have a business like a professional page, which is called Ben Dearman. So Benjamin Dearman is my personal Facebook page. Ben Dearman is my professional page. I do a lot more health and fitness and wellness related stuff on the Ben Dearman page, and also give more of my opinion, because if you like that page, then chances are you're not easily offended, and you actually want to learn the truth about a lot of stuff as it relates to health and fitness and wellness. So again, guys, thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out to me, Bloomsburg University. Go Huskies.
Go Huskies.
Thank you for asking me to do this. And Exercise Science Kids, if there's any Exercise Science Kids out there that are looking to do an internship, we're always looking for people. Unfortunately, you know, it's obviously, if you are from Pennsylvania and we're in New Hampshire, it would logistically be a little bit of an issue, but it would be worth the internship for you to come up. We only hire people from the internship, and I always tell people that when they come in to do an internship with us, there is no course, unfortunately. There's no class that you can take in college to prepare you for actually being a fitness professional. And I always tell people that after their internship, they're going to basically get a crash course in what it means to be in the trenches fitness pro, actually leading, leading like a people and just kicking ass. So if you guys want to reach out to me, I encourage you to, and hopefully you got something out of this presentation. Thanks a lot.